Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. I'm Hugh McKay, President of the Board of Directors of the City Club. The City Club was founded in 1912 as a forum for engaged citizens and organizations to come together for open discussion of the community's and the nation's important issues. Over the past 100 years, the City Club's unique role as a forum for debate and discussion from all points of view has earned it a national reputation as America's Citadel of free speech. Today is an important part of the City Club's centennial celebration as we honor Robert Edward Ted Turner III with the Citadel of Free Speech Award. Mr. Turner is the fourth recipient of this award. Past winners are Andrew Young, John Glenn, Antonin Scalia. This award is presented by the Board of Directors of the City Club, and representing the board today is Dick Pogue, past president of the City Club and chairman of the Citadel of Free Speech Award Committee. The Citadel of Free Speech Award is presented to a person who embodies the values of the City Club and is committed to democratic ideals by promoting the spirit of inquiry, the free exchange of ideas, and by fostering the free dissemination of information which advances public discussion of important issues contributing to a civil society. Ted Turner was chosen to receive the Citadel of Free Speech Award for his groundbreaking work, which has included founding the cable news network, CNN, the first dedicated 24-hour cable news channel and first national cable network. He also founded superstation TBS and then TNT, which is watched by 61 million homes across America. Mr. Turner has gone on to dramatically expand the scope and breadth of cable television and has done much to facilitate the exercise of free speech in America and to catalyze the discussion and addressing of issues of global importance. Mr. Turner could be termed a modern Renaissance man. As a philanthropist, he is known for his $1 billion gift to create the United Nations Foundation, a public charity supporting UN causes. Mr. Turner serves as chairman of the United Nations Foundation Board of Directors, and he has gone on to found and chair 5 major foundations that are actively addressing some of the world's most important issues. As the owner of 2 million acres of land, Mr. Turner is the second largest individual landowner in North America and has been a leader in harmonizing economic viability with ecological sustainability. As owner of the Atlanta Braves, and with the power of his cable channels, he turned the Atlanta Braves baseball team into a nationally popular franchise. The only glitch in Mr. Turner's storied career is his failure to recognize that America's team is actually the Cleveland Indians. His many other exploits, achievements, and awards are too numerous to mention, so we won't mention his winning the America's Cup, I believe more than once, or founding the Goodwill Games, or the list goes on, and we truly don't have time to talk about it all. But Mr. Turner embodies free speech, and he's lived it professionally and personally, speaking his mind and typically being outspoken, earning the nicknames the Mouth of the South and Captain Outrageous. Mr. Turner was the first media figure to be named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. When Ted Turner created CNN in 1980, he said, quote, "We won't be signing off until the world ends. We'll be on and we will cover the end of the world, live. And that will be our last event. And we'll play Nearer My God to Thee before we sign off." Now, before we sign off, please welcome to the City Club of Cleveland the recipient of the Citadel of Free Speech Award, Ted Turner.
Ted, on behalf of the City Club of Cleveland, it's my great honor and pleasure to present to you the Citadel of Free Speech Award. This is especially important this year in our world because this is our centennial year. And we want, with this award, we want to commemorate and commend you for your courage and wisdom that have resulted in being such a tremendous catalyst for positive change in the world. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, joining us today to interview Mr. Turner and moderate the question and answer period is Connie Schultz. Recognized for her regular columns in the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and she's currently still nationally syndicated as a columnist. She's recently written pieces for the New York Times and the Washington Post. Ms. Schultz currently writes a column called Views for Parade Magazine and has made several appearances on nationally broadcast programs. She won the 2005 Pulitzer Prize for commentary for what the judges called her, quote, pungent columns that provided a voice for the underdog and the underprivileged. She's won various other awards. Again, too many honors to mention here. Has written 2 noteworthy books, and we're delighted to have Connie Schultz here to help moderate the question and answer period and discussion with Ted Turner. Connie?
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be back in downtown Cleveland. So, Ted Turner, when was the last time you were here in Cleveland?
1995, when the Braves and the Cleveland Indians. Really?
I had to ask that because he said if I didn't, he'd just bring it up.
It was one of the pleasantest moments of my life.
For you. It was,
Being in Cleveland.
Right. Well,
And not many people would say that, you know?
I read your autobiography, Call Me Ted, and I'm really glad I did because even listening to the introduction of you, you're depicted very colorfully and you have funny nicknames, but they really almost eclipse the deep thinker that's behind all the achievements. And I had a chance to really do that deep dive with your book, and you were quite candid. And I wonder if we could start at the beginning, because you, I don't know how many in the room here know that you were born in Cincinnati and spent the first few years in Cincinnati. But you said something in your book about what you figured out at age 10. I want to read the quote to you if I could. I remember at the age of 9 or 10, just deciding on my own that I was going to accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative, just like that song suggested, and that helped me a lot. So how does a 10-year-old boy figure that out, and did that strategy work for you?
Yes. Basically, I did a lot of reading as a boy, particularly about the environment, which fascinated me. And I was an environmentalist back when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And I read a lot of history. I wanted to know as much as I could. I did fairly well in school, but I was more interested in what made people do things, why empires rose and fell, why some people were successful and others weren't, and because I wanted to be successful.
You had not the easiest of beginnings, really. You were, what, 4 years old when you went to a boarding school for a year? Is that right?
Yeah, my parents, my father was in the Navy, and he was based out west, and my mother had to go be with him if she could, and they sent me to boarding school.
So that's part of the reason I was asking about that optimism that you discovered at age 9 or 10. That doesn't sound like a natural trajectory for a little boy who felt lonely quite a bit of the time.
I was very lonely.
And so
I missed my parents.
So how does a little boy figure that out?
Figure.
You've had 5 children.
I had to. I just couldn't let it drag me down. I had to rise above it. So I did all I could to make myself as cheerful as I possibly could. I memorized at that time. I'm trying to remember the name of the book about the guy that's in a dungeon in the dark, and the Count of Monte Cristo.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And so I memorized quite a bit of poetry that meant a lot to me, just in case my greatest fear was to be put in a dungeon in the dark, in solitary confinement, and not be able to read or do anything except sit there for the rest of my life. And so I was so afraid of that I memorized some poetry, so if it did happen to me, at least I'd have that memorized poetry that I could reach back on.
That sounds a little bit to me like the man in the book who said, you still don't want to spend 24 hours by yourself.
Well, when I was away from my parents when I was 4 years old for that year, and then later I went off to military school when I was 9 years old. For the rest of my school career, I was away. I miss my parents so much that I suffer from a case of abandonment. I don't like to be alone.
One of the things that certainly strikes anyone who's around you in the last few years, paying any attention to you at all, is this major evolution of Ted Turner in a variety of ways. One of them sounds to me to be political. You were far more conservative earlier in your adulthood, and you and I were...
Because my father was a Republican. He was a businessman, and he said all businessmen are Republicans. This was back 40 years ago, you know. Things were a lot simpler then. That's what he said, you know. And he said, my country, right or wrong. It was during the Korean and Vietnam Wars as I grew up. And I used to go around saying, my country, right or wrong. And then after the Vietnam War, and I studied it very carefully, I changed my tune, and I changed to my country, right. Not my country was wrong. And that was a big change. Because if America was wrong, I was going to not support it.
You mentioned to me when we first met today, you brought up Senator Dick Lugar, who just lost his race in Indiana, and you said, I don't like the direction politics is taking.
I just happened to be a close personal friend of his. He and Sam Nunn, who's a Democrat, the two of them partnered up for the Nunn-Lugar bill to reduce nuclear weapons, and I'm trying to get rid of nuclear weapons. And Dick Lugar, Sam wanted him on the board of the Nuclear Threat Initiative, which we started together, and I'm co-chairman of. So I know him personally and know what a man of integrity and decency is, and it's sad that we lose such good experience. I think the country's far too partisan. I believe in the team concept. You can disagree with somebody and still be friendly and decent with them and respectful. I mean, I figure that anybody who's a member of the House of Representatives that gets elected or the U.S. Senate or any important political office deserves the respect that the office carries with it, and they should be treated with respect, dignity, and friendliness. And that's just what I believe.
Can you talk a little bit more about your activism on, you've really become very outspoken about your fears of what nuclear war could do to the world.
And life on Earth in an afternoon.
Where was this?
And why? Well, those nuclear weapons, those 22,000 nuclear weapons that we have on hair trigger alert pointed mostly at Russia, and they have several thousand pointed at us. They only take 30 minutes till they get here. There's no fail-safe mechanisms on them. If the button's pushed, you can't recall them or explode them in air. They go to their targets. I mean, take this. Let's say that something that goes wrong and Russia launches a full-scale attack at the United States, and President Obama calls Putin up and says, "We surrender unconditionally. You don't need to do it." Just, God damn it! We already sent the things off. Sorry, we can't recall them. You know, it was a real big mistake. You know, we don't need that. As much effort as we put into airline safety, every week an airliner somewhere in the world goes down. But those missiles and those nuclear bombs are not safe. The only thing to do is to get rid of them. And I'll tell you, we're about to go to war with Iran over whether they can have 2 or not have 2. It's okay for Israel to have 100, but they can't have 2. I mean, we're going to have, if we're going to operate this world successfully, we're going to have to treat everybody equally. You know, if the Israelis can have them, We either all have them or nobody has them. For us to sit there with 2,000 and tell Iran they can't have two, I mean, who's going to believe that? It lacks credibility. We got to start acting like intelligent, educated, civilized, decent human beings. If we do that, we'll be fine. If we don't, we're going to be gone.
Now, you know, I noticed some reporters recently who've covered you have called that attitude naive.
What, getting rid of nuclear weapons?
I guess envisioning even the
Sam Nunn believes it, and he was head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he believes it now. He didn't when he and I first partnered up, but over the 20 years that we've been working together, I changed his mind.
My favorite.
Well, I helped do it. I mean,
my favorite quote.
But now he's for total elimination. So is George Shultz, and so is Henry Kissinger, and so is Bill Perry. They're both two Democrats, two Republicans. With Sam in there. They unanimously. Colin Powell wants to get rid of them. The presidents of the Security Council, all members of which that voted unanimously at the Security Council a couple of years ago to get rid of nuclear weapons. So let's get rid of them. We'd be a lot safer without them. That doesn't mean that somebody can't make one or two. The technology is widely known and understood, but one or two would be horrible. But they wouldn't be like the thousands that we have now going off that would destroy life on Earth. I mean, if we're going to kill ourselves, let's kill ourselves, but let's not take the elephants and the monkeys with us. Let's leave something here, you know. I mean, this is a really nice world. You know, even Cleveland, right? Remember when the river burned here in Cleveland?
You know, Ted, I need to remind you,
that was an environment, but back when I was just getting interested in the environment, you cleaned it up too.
But you're visiting the center of the universe right now. You knew that, right? That's Cleveland.
Listen, I love it here. I'm a Buckeye, for Christ's sake. I'd rather be from Cleveland than from Cincinnati. At least you got the lake.
You know, this kind of brings me to the quote I was trying to remind you from Sam Nunn, who said that you told him once, "I'm really grateful for the First Amendment or I'd be in jail." Do you remember telling him that? It's in your book.
I told him that?
You did. I've got the quote, actually.
I might have. Hell, you know. And
Jane Fonda very fondly said of you, she's never known a man who's had to apologize to more people for what he said. So I'm wondering if maybe, are there any regrets of things you've said over time?
Sure. I regret anything I said that was offensive to anybody.
When I look at your activism with the United Nations and all the money you've poured into the work there, it's striking how much you've committed to helping women and children. And I'm wondering why you've focused.
Women. Of the top priorities, after getting rid of nuclear weapons, giving equal rights to women, and I mean equal rights completely, equal rights to education, equal rights to opportunity. First of all, we've got to stabilize the population. We're at 7 billion people. When I was born 73 years ago, there were 2 billion people. There's 3.5 times as many people on this planet. And just coming into Cleveland, I just looked out the window, and the city goes forever. Cleveland goes all the way to Chicago. I mean, and it's that way all over the world. And we're adding 70 or 80 million people every year. We'll add another billion people in the next 15 years. And already, of the 7 billion people that are here, 1 billion don't get enough calories a day. Another billion don't get enough vitamins and minerals. They are malnourished. That's 2 billion malnourished people. Another billion are very unhealthy because they're obese, and that's caused by poor diet mostly. And so that's 3 billion that have serious impairments because of, to a large degree, a lack of food. And we just can't beat more out of this planet. What we've got to do is have voluntarily cut back to 1 or 2 children. I have 5. But you know what? I had them 30 years ago, and the population was 3 billion 30 years ago. It was half as much as it is now. It's happening so fast that nothing like it has ever happened in the history of the world before. So we have to stabilize the population. But it's real easy to do and would cut way back on abortions, almost do away with abortions, because if a woman doesn't get pregnant because she uses birth control, she doesn't need an abortion. You only need an abortion if you're pregnant and you don't want a child. So there are 250 million women in the world that would use birth control if it was available. It costs $3.5 billion a year to provide all those women with birth control. $3.5 billion sounds like a fair amount of money, but Bill Gates has $60 billion. You know, and the military budgets are over $1 trillion a year. So what's $3.5 billion against? I think what we need to do. Lester Brown, formerly of World Watch Institute, he's got his own think tank now, but he's the best futurist that we have on the planet, I think, and he says it would take about $400 billion to solve all our problems, to provide electricity to everybody, to provide education to everybody, to provide decent housing, health care, and enough food for everybody. $400 billion. The military budgets are $1 trillion. Why don't we phase over a 10-year period the military budgets back, each country, by the same amount, and cut the military budgets back to $500 billion, and use the other $500 billion to improve the status of life and sustainability on the planet. That would take care of half of the population growth. Half of the population growth, if we just supplied the women who would use birth control with it, that would cut that in half. And if we educate the women, a lot of countries don't even educate. They deliberately. Did you read the story a few weeks ago in the papers? I'll still look at a paper once in a while. There was the story in the papers of 80 young girls that were poisoned by over there in the Middle East because they were going to school. Yeah. They'd left their homes and gone to school, and for that they were being poisoned. Come on, man! You want to fight? That's something to fight for. So if we just had, if women all over the world had equal rights with men, and you know, we have something to look at too that we can be proud of. 100 years ago, no women in the world had equal rights with men. It was only in 1920, 23 or whatever it was, that women got the vote in the United States. So no women had, and half the women in the world now have equal rights with men, but only half. That is one of the top priorities after getting rid of nuclear weapons, stabilizing the population, protecting the environment. You've got to, right in there, you've got to give equal rights to women. And the countries that have done it are the ones that are on top. Those Arab countries that don't give equal rights to women, won't let them drive cars and so forth, they're the furthest behind in every way, because what they're doing is they're not tapping the resources. Women are just as smart as men. And nowadays, we need all the brain power that we can muster. And we can, by educating our women and giving them an opportunity to be corporate leaders. In the United States, there are more women in business school today than there are men. Those are some of the main things.
I'm really glad I asked that question.
Well, I'm sorry I went on like that. But that's a
I'm glad.
It's an important question. What we're talking about, what I'm working on is survival of the human race and life on Earth. Just not too big. And I'm on all these UN committees. I'm on the Millennium Development Goals Committee at the United Nations. That committee's job is to eliminate poverty in 5 years. Not poverty in the United States or in downtown Cleveland. Poverty all over the world. Then I just got picked to be on the Ocean Elders. We're trying and save the oceans, stop the overfishing. The oceans are collapsing. The whole planet's collapsing. And I'm on several other committees, too.
Let's shift gears, if we could, for a moment.
Seriously.
I know you're serious. So am I. And
Sure.
I'm glad you. I wanted to talk to you about journalism for a minute, if we could, though, before we go to the audience. Yeah, I want to know what you think of the state of television journalism right now.
There's some's good, some's bad. Depends on what you watch.
I'm talking about overall. Well, it's pretty different from when you started CNN.
I don't watch much television. When I do, I watch CNN.
How's it looking these days, do you think, CNN? Is it what you
It's
envisioned
okay.
still?
I'd like to see them do more international news and more serious news and less who murdered who. I mean, yesterday. I mean, it's every day the murder of the day. But we ran that back when I was running it too. I mean, we had the cameras on O.J. Simpson all day while he drove around L.A. And we were there when Jessica was pulled out of the well.
But talk also, would you please, about the first Gulf War, because you were there where nobody else was when the first war broke out.
Right.
Talk about, it was Bernie Shaw was in Baghdad, right?
Yeah.
And who else was with them? Two others. And you were
Peter
warned-
Arnett.
And there was one more. Trying to think who it was. No, Wolf wasn't in.
He came
Baghdad.
in later.
Yeah, but you were warned that you had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that a little bit, please? You got
Well,
a
the President of the
warning.
United States called Tom Johnson and warned him to get
Who was head
our
of
people
CNN.
out of Baghdad because they were going to start bombing. And I had a meeting of our executive committee at CNN, and I said, I'm making the decision. I listened to everybody's opinion, and they were mixed. Some thought we should stay, some thought we should come out. And I said, if we've got volunteers that want to stay, and they were volunteers, we're going to stay. And that's my decision, and if anything goes wrong, I'll take personal responsibility. Unlike some other media moguls that deny that they knew anything about the fact that the wires were tapped.
Did you wrestle with that decision much, or did it come pretty fast?
I did, but it was I always figured if you're a war correspondent, you take some risks being a war correspondent. That just goes with and nobody's forced you to be a war correspondent. Or in this case, we had plenty of war correspondents that chose not to go. We really only had, out of the hundreds of people at CNN, only 2 volunteered to go. And during the most recent Gulf War, they didn't have anybody that wanted to go, and I called them up. I hadn't been there for 5 years, but I called them up and told them that I would volunteer to go, and they said, you don't have enough experience. And I said, well, all you got to do is stand there, and wow, that was close, Wow. What do you need? Are we done?
We're taking halftime now. Yeah. He was going to make a few announcements.
I feel like I should duck. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we're listening to a special forum with Ted Turner, founder of CNN, philanthropist, and humanitarian. We will return to Mr. Turner momentarily for the traditional City Club question and answer period. Please go ahead and formulate your questions now. If you have a question, you may want to move towards the front of the room so you can ask it in a moment. We're pleased to have continued support of WCPN 90.3 FM, WCLV, WTAM, or one of the many radio stations across the country. Our television broadcast partners are WVIZ, PBS Idea Stream. Television broadcasts of the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Our live webcast is supported by the University of Akron. Today's forum is the annual Robert D. Grease Forum on Inspiration. Joining us today at the head table are Bob and Sally Grease. Will you please stand and be recognized? We're also grateful to all of the corporations and organizations that have purchased tables and sponsored today's event. We thank you. Now we'd like to return to Ted Turner and Connie Schultz for the traditional City Club question and answer period. Holding the microphones today are Betsy Wallace and Carrie Miller, Program Director. First question, please.
Mr. Turner, the world are very laudable. It was mentioned in the introduction that you're one of the largest property owners in North America, at least. Last fall, I was vacationing in Mexico in Kingston and drove by a ranch, and later on people told us that was Ted Turner's ranch. I wondered what your goals are in owning so much land and what you do with the land you own and how you to fit it into your priorities?
Okay, that's a simple question. One of the things when I was a little boy, reading about nature, I read about the bison and how there were 30 million of them when Columbus discovered America, and 200 years later we were down to 200. We just slaughtered them, and they were on the verge of extinction. And I knew that they'd made somewhat of a comeback. And when I started seriously raising bison in 1972, there were about 30,000, back up to 30,000. And I wanted to dedicate my life, part of it, to bringing back the bison. So I bought that land for my ever-expanding bison herd, and I went from 3 bison 30 years ago to 56,000 now. And those bison are out there on that land, along with all the other wildlife. We don't even kill rattlesnakes or prairie dogs, okay? And we have, now there are 500,000 bison in the world, 56,000 on my property. I've got 11% of all the bison in the world. And in the United States, there are 300,000, and I've got 20% of them. So that's what I'm doing with it, and I tend to leave it in a foundation where it's taken care of for the animals mainly and the birds. We don't use any pesticides, so there's no poisons on the place. That's the reason the birds are all dying, particularly the songbirds, is when we're killing all the insects by spraying everything, and then they have nothing to eat. Or when they do eat an insect, it's laced with poison, so the birds are either poisoned or starving, and that breaks my heart. To see us mismanaging our planet the way that we are breaks my heart, and that's one of the things that I'm working on. And in my personal life, I set an example of how to do it, and I get more environmental. I even got an award from the prairie dog people who love, for doing more for prairie dogs than anybody. I got 250,000 prairie dogs, and there's only 2 million left in America. There used to be 4 billion. Now, so prairie dogs have been just as exterminated as the bison have, the smallest and the largest. It doesn't matter. We'll kill anything. And I'm sick of it. And I'm trying to do something about it. What little I can. Does that answer your question?
Mr. Turner, 30 years ago you had a vision as an entrepreneur to create CNN. Now, today we have the...
Okay, haven't heard this question yet. I'm hard of hearing, and she's going to have to repeat you.
Okay.
He first of all referred to your starting CNN so many years ago. Now we're going to keep going.
What about CNN?
That you started it.
Yes, we started
but
CNN.
He's going to continue. He's going to ask a question.
Okay, you had the vision for CNN 30 years ago. Now we have the social media revolution. What is your take on Facebook this week declaring an IPO of $38 per share?
What is your take on Facebook clearing $38 a share today on the stock market? The whole idea of social media.
It's been happening, People used to buy Eastman Kodak, too, Don't ask me. I lost $8 billion in merging with AOL, brother. I didn't like the way it looked, but it was worse even than I thought. But it made me more humble, and that has some value.
Really? Oh, good. I don't mean that you needed it, but that's always good. Yeah.
Mr. Turner, again, congratulations on your award
Call
today.
me Ted, please.
What do you think? Oh, Ted. Okay. United Nations, in the last many years, its credibility and its authority have evolved. Where do you see the future of United Nations? And if you had the authority to single-handedly make some changes in it, what would you do with United Nations?
Well, first of all, I don't like the United Nations. I love the United Nations. I am absolutely convinced, and that was one of the things that I read about. The nuclear weapons came along in 1945, and I was 6, 7 years old. I remember when they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. And I am absolutely certain that if it had not been for the United Nations, we would have already had World War III and we'd all be dead. I remember Khrushchev, when he was so angry at the United Nations, he took his shoe off and beat the podium but he didn't send the bombs, because if nothing more than a debating society, it gives people a place where they can let off steam, and if you just, you take a lot of a person's anger away if you just listen to them. If you're getting in a fight with your wife or your girlfriend, I mean, I'm an expert at this.
I didn't say anything.
God knows I've learned enough. I've studied it carefully too, but not much success. But at any rate, with the UN is like, we can't get by without a federal government. We need state government. We need county government. We need city government. And we need international government. How are we going to deal with refugees? How are we going to deal with the oceans? How are we going to deal with the Arctic and Antarctic? How are we going to deal with the atmosphere, the pollution in the atmosphere? How are we going to do that without a supranational organization that's above, that's above and fills in? And that's not saying that we don't have our national governments, and our national governments are not perfect. God knows our U.S. government is almost non-functional, dysfunctional at the current time. It breaks my heart. I'm a cooperator. I like to see people working together to get things done. This partisanship and small-mindedness and dislike for each other and lack of respect just makes me madder than hell, because I see our country going absolutely nowhere. We can't get in of Afghanistan or out of it. We can't do anything. Whatever one party wants to do, the other one won't do it. I mean, it's just, we got absolute gridlock. A lot of our good senators and congressmen are leaving office, and we're being stuck with unskilled people, unexperienced people. I don't know. Did I answer the question? Hell, I can't remember what it was.
You answered several. That's great. That's good. Want to take another one?
Ask me another question.
All right. Who's next? Right here.
Mr. Turner, welcome.
Ted.
Welcome to Cleveland again. From a real Cleveland Indian, I welcome you.
A real Cleveland Indian welcomes you.
Yeah, I got you. I just got back from India. I've been there a bunch of times.
My question is very simple, that on one side of the spectra, there are, from your count, 3 billion people who are malnourished and don't have enough food. And then there are so many people who are uneducated. And on the other side of the spectra, all our fiasco, all our difficulties are created by highly educated and skilled people who are well fed. So are we creating more monsters by teaching them or educating them and feeding them?
Did you hear that?
No. I heard part of it, but I need you to ask me one question.
There are there are so many people who don't have enough to eat and who are uneducated, but the world's biggest problems are created by the people who are well educated and well fed.
That's a statement that I'm not sure you can prove that all the problems are caused by those that are prosperous. I would disagree with that. I would say a lot of the problems are caused by people that weren't prosperous. But it just depends on the situation. I don't think you can make a broad generalization that broad. That's too broad.
Okay. No, I think we're going to the next one, please. Thanks.
Ted, wives and girlfriends aside, I'd like to know what of all the things you've done in your life gives you the most pleasure on a personal level. I mean,
of all the things that I've done in my life?
Of all the things you've done, what gives you the most pleasure?
The most fun I ever had? My first wedding night.
Oh. Okay, moving right along. Over there.
Then there was another one.
Okay, no, that's okay.
The real one, the real answer to that is my children.
Okay, good recovery. Go.
I did that for fun.
I know you did, and it was a lot of fun.
It's been a pretty heavy session.
I have a question. As an environmentalist, I'm interested in your opinion on all the drilling and fracking that's going on in Ohio and in the region, and how we balance the need for energy with, it's going in people's backyards and residential areas, and how we protect the environmental and the human concerns around that.
Did you hear that?
Not a thing.
Okay. How do we balance the fracking that's going on and the disruptions even in the backyards of people with our need for energy?
Well, I'm a strong believer in clean, renewable energy, and that we need to phase out of fossil fuels just as fast as we can and replace them with geothermal, wind, solar, biofuels, that we need to stop burning things. We need to stop, phase out coal immediately, phase out oil, switch over cars from internal combustion engines to electricity. Our cities will be clean. The air will be clean. It'll be quiet. It'll be just so wonderful. And we've got to go that way because fossil fuel is limited. And we're going to run out anyway. We're running down. Now we're having to go to more and more difficult and environmentally dangerous places. Phase out fossil fuel immediately, as fast as we can. It'll provide thousands, millions of jobs. It'll be great for our business, and it'll be great for our future. That's what we need to do. You're a Democrat, for Christ's sake, and you're sitting there. You want to get reelected, right?
Don't start picking on my
You can't
husband.
slip one by me, brother. Try to slip that high inside fastball right by me.
Ted, right here. You had what I consider to be the courage to speak of yourself as dedicated to the survival of the human race. And I do think it takes some courage to set your sights that high, in part because we really are a tribal species, especially in Cleveland. And I ask you, what have you found to be the single most effective way, the most effective idea to convey to people the importance of thinking about our success as an entire species?
What was the question?
I
got part of it. But
how do you get people to think, how do you get individuals to think about, to have a global view of the world, that we're talking about our survival as a species, not just as individuals or even as individual countries, but as a global community? How do we get people
Well, I
to
think
think
you
that way?
need to think about both, because if we've got to survive as individuals in order to survive as a society. So they're not competitive. They're complementary.
But how do you get someone here to care about what's happening to somebody in
I'm
India?
here, I paid my own way up here, for Christ's sake, just so I get a chance to talk to everybody and try and persuade them to change their way of doing things. And the senator doesn't even applaud for clean energy.
I saw him applaud, actually. You were applauding. I saw you. Trying to keep the identity separate here.
Listen, the coal industry is powerful. Oh, they've run those clean coal commercials so many times that I wake up in the middle of the night saying coal is clean.
Clap, honey. Trust me. Just clap. Okay. Yes.
Hi, I'm Leah. Hi, Ted and Connie. Ted, you've influenced so many people in both media and philanthropy. Connie's been a big influence with me in my life. Who throughout the years has been your biggest inspiration? Who's influenced you throughout the years?
Who's influenced you over the years? You're great. I mean, I'm thinking at a family level, Jimmy Brown, right? But who've been your big influences in your life?
My father, but not in business. I mean, he was a good businessman, but he was in the billboard business, and he didn't have a strong sense of social responsibility. But 50 years ago, when he was alive, we didn't have the kind of problems we have today either, and we didn't know near as much. And for the time, he was socially responsible. We didn't know that coal was going to kill us back then.
Tell them the advice your father gave you about how to set your goals.
It was good advice. He was depressed, but he committed suicide, and he told me that that he had made a mistake and set his goals too low. That he accomplished them all when he was 50, and he couldn't reevaluate and come up with new goals. He had worked so hard to get where he got, and his goals were three things. Because he couldn't finish college because he didn't have any money. Then the Depression hit, and so it really meant a lot to him to make some money. He said, "I want to be a millionaire, I want to have a yacht, and I want to have a plantation." And when he was 50, he had made a couple $1 million. He bought a little 40-foot schooner, secondhand, but it was a nice little boat. And he bought a 1,000-acre plantation in South Carolina. And he said, "My life's over." And he said, "Please set your goals so high that you can't accomplish them in your lifetime, so you'll always have something to look forward to rather than regret that you've accomplished everything that you wanted to do." So I did. I thought saving the world as my... And I don't plan to be going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, when I lost all that money, I lost $10 million a day, every day, holidays included, for 3 years. And as I stayed on the board at AOL, I didn't even get. The shareholders filed a lawsuit against the company, which they settled for several $1 billion. But even though I was the biggest shareholder, my share of that would have been $400 or $500 million if I had joined in the lawsuit. I would have had to withdraw from the board of directors, and I knew that the company, they had cooked the books, so they were going to have to pay. But I stayed there on the board to try and help, the brave little soldier, oh boy. To do the right thing and protect my friends who had stock in the company because they were friends of mine and they bought the stock. And the stock did go up 3,000 for one. I mean, I know what it was like to be at Google. I was rich once. And then on top of that, I gave the rest of it away. I barely can afford the payments on my plane.
You're making that up now.
That was just a little... But it got a laugh. I also think that in a situation like this is not the U.S. Senate. We got one senator here. Right, which is good, better than nothing, but we're not going to change the policies of the United States and the world with this group, I got to tell you. I mean, you're a good group, and I love you, and I'm glad I'm here. Nobody paid me to come, and I'm glad I came. But I'm here practicing, so when I do get a chance to address the General Assembly at the United Nations, I'll know what to say. I'm practicing.
Okay. Over there, Ted.
Mr. Turner,
Ted.
Your opinion of the advertising being used by all parties and super PACs, how would you support legislation that would help make those two things more reasonable and appropriate?
I couldn't hear a thing.
The super PAC money that's going in, the campaigns, all the money in the advertising. What would you do to change things? If you could change it.
I would like to see campaign spending be limited. And I think I would like to see a little bit taken from our taxes and spend a lot less on advertising. And the only money that any candidate can spend is his little bit that he gets from the government, and no campaign, no individual campaign funding, because what's happening is the moneyed interests are taking over the country, and that is not good. That is very unhealthy.
Over here.
Ted, you were the most appropriate to be receiving the award for free speech. It strikes me that today is a time and place in which civility and free speech are kind of knocking each other off or canceling each other out. And I'd like you to speak to how we can maintain civility and at the same time have a strong and vigorous free speech.
Did you hear that?
No.
how do we marry the two, have civility and free speech? Because, as she noted, it seems increasingly...
Stability?
No, civility.
Civility.
Civility and discussion, and still have free speech. So take it away, Captain Courageous.
Well, for most of our country's history, we've had civility and free speech. This is a pretty recent phenomenon that we have here. I think the best way to do it is to raise our children so that they have respect for authority and do the right things. That's a part of our society. Our educational system should teach that, as well as our churches do, and what we learn from our parents. That's how I got where I was, wherever that was.
Over here, Ted.
Ted, as we all know, our economy is in the dumper. What would you advise our people, all politicians or head of our government or industry, to bring it back?
Well, it's not as good as it could be, but it could be a hell of a lot worse. I mean, I've seen it a lot worse. I'm in the restaurant business now, and our restaurants are breaking records. Of course, we're doing a good job. People like the food, or they wouldn't be there. But I don't think that the economy is all that bad, and the best way to make it better is for everybody to work hard.
Over here.
Ted, in your listing of things that gave you pleasure in life, what's right after your children? Would it have been winning the America's Cup for us?
In terms of things you most enjoyed in life, after your children, with the honeymoon, the children, would it have been winning the Cup, America's Cup?
I would say winning the Cup means a little bit more to me than winning the World Series, because I was an owner in the World Series, and I was sitting in the box pulling for the team and paying the bills. But with America's Cup, I was out there steering the boat myself, and I was the captain of the boat, and I was on board. I was part of the team. So from a sporting accomplishment, that would be it. From a business accomplishment, the thing that I'm proudest of, obviously, was CNN. But I was proud of Captain Planet and Gettysburg. Gettysburg, I'm the one that underwrote that. And I also greenlit Lord of the Rings, which made $2 billion. So I had a lot of good things happen to me, but I had something bad happen too, and that was the merger with AOL and Time Warner. You know, I know what it is to suffer too.
Okay. I think that's it for our questions. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. Thank you, Ted.
Today at the City Club, we've been listening to a special City Club Citadel of Free Speech presentation honoring Ted Turner. Mr. Turner, it's an honor to have you here today and to become part of the City Club family. We also thank our moderator, Connie Schultz. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.